Food waste is a big problem in our country. According to the Canadian government, 20% or 11 million tons of all the food produced in Canada every year, it's wasted. This is not just a social or humanitarian concern, it's also an environmental one. But there are changes we can take as a consumer to make a whole lot of difference. Helping us make sense of this problem and sharing ways to reduce food waste, hacks for us, is eco-expert Karishma Porwal. So great to have you on the show.
Thank you, Kelsey. It's nice to see you.
It's nice to see you too. What happens, first of all, when food ends up in the garbage?
So I think before we understand the problem of food waste, it's important that we understand the difference between carbon dioxide emissions and methane emissions. So a lot of people believe that carbon dioxide is the big bad enemy when it comes to climate change. And carbon dioxide is definitely a concern, but I would say methane is a more immediate problem. Methane has 80 times the heating power of carbon dioxide in the first 20 years from when it's released into the atmosphere. So that is to say, methane heats the earth very intensely in a short period of time versus carbon dioxide, which has a long, slow heating period. Now, food waste comes into the equation because when we throw food away, it often ends up in landfill where it can't break down properly. And when food can't break down properly, it releases methane. And I think the most shocking part of this is what you mentioned. So much of the food produced in Canada is wasted. But I do think there's ways we can all do our part to reduce that number.
Yeah, so let's get into them. You say that the things the average person can do make a huge change, starting with taking inventory. What does that look like?
Yes, knowing what's in your fridge. I find it's so helpful when I take stock of my fridge and my pantry so I can use things up before they go bad.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'll find a bunch of ingredients in the back of my fridge and it'll be enough to throw a meal together or enhance what I'm already making. So if I'm, say, making a pot of instant noodles and I find a couple of lone carrots in the back of my fridge, I'm gonna chop them up and throw them right in there.
You know, I found meal planning helped with that a lot. It's the taking inventory at the beginning of the week, looking at what you have, you save money, but you also reduce that food waste. You also want people to properly utilize their fridge to reduce food waste. How does that work?
Yeah, I mean, a fun tip that I do is to keep a basket in your fridge labeled Eat Me First. And the idea is to fill this basket with items that go bad quickly or things that are about to reach their best before their use-by date. And so for me, for example, I love raspberries when they're in season, but raspberries are notorious for being perfect one day and then being soggy the next. So this is definitely something that I'll put in my Eat Me First basket so I can snack on them before they go bad.
Yeah, avocados are going right into that jar as well. You also recommend using your leftovers creatively. What do you do?
Yeah, I mean, there's so many ways to use up leftovers or to even use up parts of fruits and vegetables that we wouldn't normally eat. So an example I like to use is broccoli stalks.
I was just thinking broccoli. You read my mind.
Yeah. Broccoli stalks are actually full of flavor. I chop them up and put them in my lasagna. I put them in my instant noodles. I eat a lot of instant noodles, clearly. Things like bread, stale bread, you can toast it, cut it up, and make croutons. Honestly, the possibilities with leftovers are endless.
Yeah, if you just start to think, I'm not going to throw a single piece of food in the garbage intentionally, you can really get creative with what you can do. Yeah. Last but not least, compost. What do we do here?
Yeah, so compost is not just for farmers. Compost is great because when food breaks down in a compost, it's actually allowed to break down properly in a way that does not release any methane. So if you have a backyard, you can create a compost using 3 simple items, 2 of which are free: soil, fallen leaves, and a big plastic tub. That's really all you need. And if you're in an apartment and you don't have the space for that, then definitely check if your city collects organics and save up some food scraps for garbage day. I like to save mine in the freezer so they're not on the counter and smelling bad or anything, but that's a great way to collect your food scraps as well.
Freezer. I have never thought of putting my food scraps in the freezer. Krishma, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
You make it super easy. Hey, thanks for watching. If you liked this, be sure to subscribe here, or you can check out more Your Morning videos right here.